This episode begins with the boss of a gang group called Titan, taking his little daughter to school. As soon as his daughter spots her friends, she says goodbye to him. The gang boss sees his assistant standing close by and reminds him what he told him about his family time, but the assistant tells the boss that he is here because they have a problem. The scene takes us to a large prison for superpowered beings, where we see guards giving each of the prisoners food. We see Multiplies at the prison. Multiplies looks around the prison environment. Just as he confirmed that everyone is asleep, he decided to go ahead with his escape plan. He multiplies himself to about 100 duplicates, and hangs his original body in the ceiling. He then makes so many copies of himself and uses the bodies to put so much pressure on his prison cell. This is a very disturbing scene indeed, but his plans worked as Multiplies was finally able to open his prison cell. The prison guard sees this and tries to stop him, but he multiplies himself into many copies to fight each prison guard. Everything was at his advantage for a while, until some special agent shows up and puts a collar on his neck. This collar restricted him from using his powers, and by this way, they knocked him out. Kate visited her brother Multiplies in prison to tell him how stupid he is for trying to break out from prison. She was really close in convincing Cecil to make him join their superhero team to make up for all the shits he has done, but because of his escape attempt, they are just gonna add years to his sentence. Paul tells her that people like them don't serve sentences, but Kate tells him to face the reality. Even the Order already tried to break him out, but failed. Paul feels he is too useful for the Order to forget about him, but Kate tells him that the Order are not his friends, they only use him. After they argue for a while, Kate tells her brother that their dad's birthday is this week. We then get a flashback when their dad ran mad, because he couldn't bear taking care of them when they were little. Some agent showed up and took him to a psychiatrist hospital, while Kate and Paul were taken to the lab by the government where some scientists studied them, and they were later placed in the military, as the government turned them into his weapons to fight war. But one night, Paul escaped and joined the Order, where he became an assassin for them. Kate tries to make her brother understand that him being a member of the Order is a bad choice, because he murders people for them, but Paul was like, at least they're honest about who they are, and they pay him very well. Kate tells her brother that she is just trying to get him out, but Paul tells her that he himself cannot leave the Order even if he wanted to. He tells her their situation are alike, because just like the GDA she works for, they don't abandon tools they're not done with yet. The scene changes to Mark's house. Just as Oliver helps Debbie to arrange pancakes for breakfast, they call Mark out to join them. Mark noticed Oliver has grown much more bigger. They hear a knock at the door and the person turned out to be Eve. She was actually with Mark all night at his bedroom, but she left his bedroom through the window and came through the front door acting like she is just visiting them, so Debbie won't know they made out. She joins them for breakfast, where Debbie asks Mark how his night was, but Oliver spills the beans, telling Debbie that Mark and Eve had a sleepover. They made too much noise in the bedroom and that woke him up from sleep. Mark tells Debbie that he wants to move out with Eve to a new apartment, and since she's dating a guy called Paul, it will be better if he is not walking in on them whenever he comes home from a big fight. Debbie understands that Mark is now an adult and can now make his own decisions, but she isn't happy because she doesn't want him to leave. Even Oliver isn't happy because he will have no one to hang with him, but Mark tells them he is not leaving forever, he will just be like 5 seconds flight away. At the roof of the apartment, Mark tells her his decision for moving in with her is because they won't have to be sneaking around anymore, and make out freely, and Eve is really happy about this, because nothing will make her more happier than waking up next to his handsome face. The only problem is getting the apartment, but Mark tells her he will find a part-time job so he can pay the money for rent. Eve turns out to have a plan for the job Mark can do. Eve fakes her identity as the owner of the private security firm, and meets with the prison director to help her solve the problems her prison faces, because in the past year, her prison had 5 riots, 3 escapes, and too many attempted breakouts to count. Eve tells the director that she has a superhero who is available and ready to handle all supervillain problems in the prison, just an emergency call, and he will be at the prison in seconds, but gives the director a fee she will be paying. On the other hand, the boss of the Order called Lou, scolds Titan for failing to break out Multiplies from prison. Titan tells the boss of the Order that he has tried and it's now impossible to break out their assassin Multiplies from prison, since the prison just hired a superhero. Lou threatened Titan that if he doesn't break out Multiplies from prison in 24 hours, they will hurt his little daughter Fiona. Out of fear, Titan rushed to his apartment and asks Nessa, his wife, for their daughter whereabouts, but he's so much at relief when his daughter comes out from her room and hugs him. Fiona tells him how an old man bought cookies for her. He tells her that she should stay at home with her mom from now on, until he tells her otherwise. At Mark's room, Mark tells Eve how awesome she is because he doesn't even know how to set up his email, but she created a whole business for them. But Eve tells him to thank her after they get their first paycheck. Debbie knocks at Mark's room and informs Mark that Oliver has disappeared from the house. Titan asks his assistant that if Lou wants multi-Paul so bad, why doesn't he go get him himself? But his assistant tells him the order can actually break Paul out themselves, but they want to see if he is going to play the ball with them or not. They want to test him if he can do as he is told. Mark and Eve goes out to search for Oliver. Mark is worried if someone kidnapped him, or could it be whoever that was spying on them? They see Oliver playing with some kids and goes to observe what he is doing behind a tree. Oliver uses a skateboard to fly above the kids, but they tell him he's cheating because he is doing it with his powers. Mark sees this and is so happy that Oliver has finally made friends, like just normal friends, and they are just playing. While Oliver and his friends were playing, some bully shows up and tells Oliver and his friends to leave the park for them to skate. They mock Oliver for being purple and push him to get lost, which made Oliver really angry. Mark tries to come out, but Eve tells Mark to just watch, confident that Oliver can handle the situation well. Mark is afraid that Oliver might kill the bullies, but Oliver uses his speed to pull down the bullies' pants, making them all to run in shame. While Ray watches TV, Rex surprises her as he prepares dinner for her himself. Ray has always wanted a normal home-cooked meal, so Rex decided to make her dream come through. It turns out he likes Ray, and wants to impress her in the best way he can. Ray enjoyed the meal and held his hands in appreciation, as they both enjoyed the meal. On the other hand, Titan pays a visit to Machine Head in prison, where he asks for his help on how to defeat the Order, but since Titan got to where he is by backstabbing Machine Head, he isn't interested in advising Titan on how he can get out of the sticky situation. He does hint that if Titan gets him out of the prison, and gives him 5-star service for his machine parts, he might just change his mind. Mark tells Debbie about everything he saw last night. Debbie is shocked hearing Oliver has friends who didn't make fun of him for being purple. But Debbie is still afraid because Oliver might end up hurting the bullies if they come back again, but Mark is confident that Oliver isn't like that, and tells Debbie to just let Oliver have a normal kid life. Mark gets an emergency call from the prison and hurries there. Titan appears to be attacking the prison, but is to gain Mark's attention. Mark is angry with him for abandoning him to die before, but Titan tells him that he risked his life coming here because a lot of people's lives are in danger. Titan tells Mark all about Lou, the leader of the Order, who can turn into a dragon. He tells Mark what Lou plans to do if multi-Paul isn't released or broken out of the facility, and he warns Mark that the state of the neighborhood will go down the gutter if Lou replaces Titan. If multi-Paul is freed, Lou will let Titan keep his post, Titan's family and the neighborhood will be left unharmed, and then Mark can deal with the Order later. Of course, Mark isn't okay with this deal, and he tries to arrest Titan, but he gives Mark the slip and escapes. Mark feels bad for not helping Titan, but Eve assures that he did the right thing, because Titan is a bad person and working with him will only bring him down to his level. Just after the deadline was over, Lou shows up to deal with Titan who failed to break multi-Paul out from prison. He asks Isotope, his assistant, to mile them up, but it turns out Isotope now works for the Order, because he feels it's safer for him to side with a higher power. In order to deal with Titan, Lou transforms into a very terrifying dragon and tries to kill Titan.
You fucking dragon!
Titan struggled really hard, but he is no match, and he ended up being thrown off the building. Lou decided to go rescue multi-Paul himself, as he heads straight to prison in his dragon form. Mark gets the news and decided to go help. He doesn't want Eve to follow him because he screwed up, and doesn't want her getting hurt because of his mistakes, but Eve reminds him that they are both in a relationship, and anything they do together. Dragon attacks the prison and begin killing everyone, but Mark and Eve suddenly shows up to stop him. Mark and Eve tries so hard to finish him up, but the dragon's body is just impenetrable. During the fight, Dragon destroys the prison building, and all the prisoners including Machine Head use the opportunity to escape. Multi-Paul is able to use all his strength to break the collars around his neck, but Eve stops them from escaping apart from Multi-Paul, who used his duplicate bodies to deceive her. The dragon bites Mark, making him really angry. Mark flies to the sky and uses his strength to punch through the brains of the dragon, but the dragon body healed up immediately. Just as the dragon is about to finish up Mark, Machine Head is able to kill Lou's body, and the dragon died as well. Just after the fight, Mark feels it might be a bad idea to just move out. With Oliver sneaking out, it doesn't feel right to just leave his mom to look after Oliver all by herself. Oliver is his responsibility too. Debbie tells Mark that she is going to follow his advice by letting Oliver to be a normal kid. Mark tells Debbie his decision of not moving out anymore, which made Debbie so happy. To Mark it feels like he is rushing a lot of things, and it really feels nice to live with his mom and little brother. This episode ends with Machine Head becoming the new leader of the Order. Thank you for watching, guys. Next episode as usual next week. Subscribe so you won't miss out. Bye.